Hello everyone, this is Don Kloss here for Central Ohio Nature. I am live at the O'Shaughnessy Nature Preserve in Shawnee Hills. I am in the east parking lot right off of Dublin Road. If you're heading north on Dublin Road, this is the parking lot on the right. It's a rather small parking lot that is pretty much only used by people that are coming here to fish. And I want to show you something this afternoon that's interesting. A lot of people don't know about it. For point of reference, this is Friday afternoon, about 3:30 on September 30th, Friday afternoon. So I am at the edge of the parking lot here, and off to the right of the parking lot is a wooded area, and there are a few trails going off into the woods. Not well maintained, unfortunately. This is owned and operated by Columbus Parks and Recreation. We're going to go down one of these trails. This is what I want you to see. Leaving the parking lot, we're going to take this narrow trail here, and I will point out, although I probably don't need to, this property has a lot of trees in it. Not too old, any of them really, but they're pretty tall, a lot of them, and we have a lot of understory here. A lot of different plants. It is a mix of native plants and also, unfortunately, invasives. And this part of the trail runs along the East Lake. I don't know if we'll see any this afternoon, but I have seen quite a few deer in this area in the past. We have a pretty high water level today based on rains that we've had recently. This is a little cove, and we are actually going to go around this. This part of the trail, unfortunately, is just not maintained at all, and gets almost no traffic. So it is hard to follow, and there is a lot of really overgrown multiflora rose, which doesn't make it any easier. Brush pants are a very good idea if you come here. As you can see, this understory is incredibly thick here. Very difficult to get through. So now, thanks to the area deer, this part of the trail is a little more clear. Trail is a little more easy to follow at this point, although we're still dealing with some overgrowth. And we come to somewhat of a clearing where we have less understory, more tall trees. And here we are. We have this lovely ravine that most people do not even know is here. I'm now in the bottom of the ravine. The sides rise up between about 15 to 20 feet on average. And the bottom of the ravine is dry right now. It is rocky. Various different types of rock are in the ravine. Everything from gravel to boulders. Some of the boulders are even erratics. I am back at the ravine at the O'Shaughnessy Nature Preserve due to a camera malfunction. Right now I am standing about 40 yards from where the ravine ends at its westerly point where it intersects with Dublin Road. And we are going to walk the ravine the other direction, headed towards the East Lake. For point of reference, it is now October 20th, 2022, and things have changed. All of the leaves on the trees have turned. They are dropping pretty well. It's not a bad day out though, close to 70 degrees. So we will take a walk and I will show you what there is to see. The first thing to point out here is that the ravine bed at this end is all pretty much a very dark black soil and gravel. There's a little bit of cobble here, but not a whole lot. It's mostly the black soil and the gravel. And now we are going to head in a northerly direction down the ravine, and I will point out some things as we go. You will notice we do have tree trunks down at various places. Here is a tree trunk that before it fell, the woodpeckers were having a great time with it. It saw a lot of woodpecker activity. So we continue on. As we head this direction, there are more and more boulders in the ravine, and we even run into some erratics. There is a great variety in the types of rock that are in the ravine. As you can see here, even with the leaves that have fallen. This one in particular is curious. It's got patterns on the top of it that almost looks like it was soft at one point, and leaf patterns from the veins of leaves got embedded in it. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it certainly looks that way. There are a lot of new saplings in this area. A lot of them maples, a lot of them buckeye trees. Here's a nice erratic here, right in the bed of the ravine. More and more stone as we walk this direction. The ravine is dry at this point. The East Lake has a fair bit of water in it at this point, but the West Lake, which is very shallow in comparison, is almost completely dried up. And we'll kind of pan up here, and you can see what understory remains at this point. And you can see the elevation of the sides of the ravine. And there are a lot of downed trees in this area. A lot of farther back, big tangles of poison ivy vines all through. I am about halfway up the eastern side of the ravine at this point, and notice there is not a actual full understory here. The majority of what there is here is honeysuckle and multiflora rose. Not a whole lot else. There are no ferns, May-apples, etc., the things you would normally see in a healthy forest floor. The other thing to take note of is there's no old growth trees here. The few oldest ones that are scattered around are perhaps 30-35 years of age, but probably 80% of these trees are pioneer trees. They're not any taller than about 12 or 13 feet. They're not any big around than a person's fist. About another 10% of them are maybe twice as big around, and then the remainder are maybe 5 to 10 years old. So this is fairly new growth in this forest. And the understory is not old. The understory is new, and it's almost all invasives. Another curious thing is I have come to the top of the ravine on the eastern side, eastern bank, and here about maybe 120 yards from the East Lake, there is this section of barbed wire fencing, and it's really old. It is actually livestock fencing set onto metal poles with 2 rows of barbed wire that tops it. And it goes down to the lake from this point, but it was not completed because right here there's a big roll of it just sitting. The ravine is starting to widen out a little bit at this point, and we're starting to see some small pools of water off and on. No life in them, except for there may be some macroinvertebrates. It would be impossible to tell really without a microscope. And for those of you interested in history, one thing that is scattered throughout the ravine is this. I found a number of these, and don't know if you can read this or not. I'm going to zoom in on this. This is a heavy block, and these weigh about 9 pounds, and these are historically important. This says Hocking block. Excuse me, Nelsonville block. So these were made by the Nelsonville Block Company down in Benton County, and they were at one point in the 1800s the largest manufacturer of bricks and block. They shipped all over the country, and they even shipped to different countries. Very, very busy for the time that they were in business. And here we have some of these blocks down here in this ravine. Here's another one, and you can more clearly see the print on it, the embossing, Nelsonville block. And then over next to it there are some pieces of the block. And I'm not going up there, but up on the ridge there, the last time I was here, I found more pieces. And I have also found in here pieces of clay-fired sewage and storm drain pipe. Don't know if they were just dumped here or if they were something that was actually in place here at one time. Hard to tell. I'm up now about maybe 15 feet on the eastern bank because we've got enough water consistently in the ravine at this point that I would end up with wet feet, which I don't want. And we got more and more understory as we head this direction. And we also have more and more invasives in the form of honeysuckle and multiflora rose. And I'm actually on a trail here that runs this side. Some of these poison ivy vines that grow here are just massive in size and very extensive in their length. At this point, we are nearing the end of this trail, and we are going to come up on the cove that the ravine empties into usually, that is connected to the eastern lake. Something interesting I have found near the end of the trail at the bluff overlooking the East Lake is there is on either side of the trail a series of 3 of these posts or post supports. There's 3 on each side of the trail. They are, I'm going to say, approximately 6 feet apart, and they are steel pipe filled with concrete, and they have a what looks to be stainless steel rod coming up out of the center of them. Now the concrete and the steel pipe looks fairly old, but the interesting thing is these stainless steel rods that come up out of the center by about 1.5 feet look fairly new. I have no idea what these might have been used for, but they're here and they are in fairly good shape. It's kind of curious. On the eastern side of the trail, there is also another set about another maybe 4.5 feet off, even with the others. And again, don't know what they're for, but they're there, and those stainless steel rods coming up out of them look to be in very good shape. And this is where it dead ends. And as you can see today, this cove is dry. No water in it. The cove is dry because the ravine is not feeding it. If I were someone who fishes here regularly, I would want to come down here and make note of where all of the tree trunks and large limbs are at, because that's cover for fish. So we'll walk out here to the end of the trail. And now we can look out across the East Lake. And we've got some mallards swimming around near the shore. And I'll point out, if I just walk around this way, below me here is a piece of either an old milestone or an old flagstone, perhaps part of an old building foundation. Not really sure. But if we come up here, there is fencing to keep people out, and there is some kind of an outdoor structure here with signage painted on it. I don't know exactly what this is. I will be going around this actually a little later on to see if I can find the Depp graveyard, which is supposed to be beyond this on the shore off of the other end of Harriet Road, Harriet Road East. And if I can find that, I will videotape that to show everybody. But this is actually the end of the journey for this virtual hikes. I will end our little journey to the O'Shaughnessy Nature Preserve ravine at this point here. I hope you have enjoyed this little virtual hike, this video trip, and that you will join us at Central Ohio Nature here for more. I'm Don Claus saying thank you, and get out there and experience nature.